Second.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Freedom of speech is a fundamental British value, which is undermined by so-called safe spaces in our universities, where a sense of righteous entitlement by a minority of students that means that their wish not to be offended shuts down debate. As students around the country return to their places of learning at the start of this new academic year, does my right honourable friend agree that university is precisely the place for lively debate and that fear of being offended must not trump freedom of speech?
Well, I absolutely agree with my honourable friend. We want our universities not just to be places of learning, but to be places where there can be open debate, which is challenged, and people can get involved in that. And I think everybody is finding this concept of safe spaces quite extraordinary, frankly. We want to see that innovation of thought taking place in our universities. That's how we develop as a country, as a society, and as an economy, and I absolutely agree with my honourable friend.
Dictionary.
Yeah.
Honestly, truly. For the record, y'all said lesbians don't exist. Cough. What?
Hello.
Low energy.
Why do you a mile off this campus?
Because I am pro-LGBT rights.
Woo! Which Milo clearly is not.
Wait, isn't he gay?
He is gay, but you can still be anti-LGBT. Transphobic. He hates Planned Parenthood because they kill all the little black babies that he could sexualize later on when they grow up. How fucking disgusting! Is that disgusting?
It's low energy. It's sad. No, it's sad.
Harmonious Black Lives Matter activists staged a peaceful protest in Charlotte last night, but were brutally tear-gassed by racist cops. Oh, wait a second. Physically attacking reporters is not a legitimate form of protest. Shooting each other is not a legitimate form of protest. Stealing and looting cash registers from local businesses is not a legitimate form of protest. Trying to set journalists on fire is not a legitimate form of protest. Throwing rocks off bridges at passing vehicles full of families is not a legitimate form of protest. Beating up innocent people in underground parking lots because they're white is not a legitimate form of protest. Smashing up apartment windows where black people live to protest in favour of Black Lives Matter is not a legitimate form of protest. Smashing up buses that poor black people rely on to get to their jobs is not a legitimate form of protest. Looting the Charlotte Hornets team store so you can steal basketball merchandise is not a legitimate form of protest. Stealing sneakers is not a legitimate form of protest. Attempting to hijack cars and terrify their innocent occupants is not a legitimate form of protest. But how did MSNBC report on all this? By calling the rioters peaceful.
The people that are out here protesting, they're hugging and they're like, they're being very peaceful.
We were following this crowd that was largely peaceful.
Mostly peaceful. We've also seen some sweet scenes of protesters hugging one another and praying. Mostly a group of peaceful protesters. Peaceful, 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 peaceful.
And that's why 94% of Americans don't trust the mainstream media. What's unfolding in Charlotte is objectively, manifestly, provably not a protest. It's a violent, unjustified riot by criminals, gang members, and thugs. Why is the media giving it legitimacy by still referring to it as a protest? If mobs of white supremacists were looting stores, setting fires, attacking journalists, and shooting guns, would the media call it a protest? But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe all this was completely justified because another racist white police officer killed an innocent unarmed black man who was merely carrying a book. Oh wait, he was actually killed by a black cop.
All white people are fucking devils.
But what kind of book was he carrying? Paperback? Hardcover? Oh no, it was a 9mm gun. Well, imagine my shock. So a black cop shoots an armed black thug with a criminal record, and then a black protester shoots another black protester. Yeah, must be white people's fault. I guess it's my fault for not checking my privilege. And how did de facto Black Lives Matter leader DeRay McKesson respond to the riots, the looting, the bloodshed, the mayhem, the violence? By tweeting, "We stand with you," because nothing says justice like destroying your own city and living up to the very stereotype about black people that you constantly complain about. Barack Obama also stands with this group, while billionaire white elitist George Soros bankrolls it to the tune of hundreds of millions of dollars. Hillary Clinton has promised to change laws for them. They advocate killing cops. They've inspired mass murderers who have killed black cops. Their ideological guru is a convicted cop killer on the FBI's most wanted terrorist list. They've built an entire movement based around the completely fraudulent narrative that there's a racist war against black people being waged by cops. It's manifestly, provably not true. This is what they're protesting against, while none of them give a damn about this. Thanks to Black Lives Matter, more black people are killing each other because cops refuse to patrol these areas. Black Lives Matter is poison. It's doing incredible harm to race relations in America. It's giving gang member thugs an excuse to carry out criminal rampages. And it's resulting in more black people being killed by other black people. How many more cities need to burn before this reality is realized?
Peaceful, 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 peaceful.
I think it just goes, Michael, I think it goes back to who gets to discriminate. And where would it stop? What if it was a Jewish wedding? Okay, no, bear with me. And the floor said, I don't want to participate in that kind of religious system.
I would find another florist happily.
Yeah, okay. But once we set that kind of precedence, where will it end? And I think, in the...
With them going out of business. Because everybody will find another florist. That's where it'll end.
No, that's all cute. That's all cute.
That's not cute. That's real. The lunch counter protests the lunch counter protests that are so famous in the civil rights movement occurred as a voluntary boycott in the early 60s, long before the civil rights movement, and it integrated. They integrated the business because of that. Capitalism discriminates against no color, no creed, and no sexuality. They want the cash.
Integration was done by force.
Yeah.
Against state government.
Most whites did not want to
you live a very comfortable life. If you're going to talk about civil rights, let's talk about what happened for people trying to get served.
Let's make sure we're hearing
against
one
state governments that were compelling segregation.
One second, Ben. Let's make sure we're hearing each other. What was it that, Ben, you concluded with? It was
Woolworths that was voluntarily.
It was state governments.
What I was saying there is that state governments were the source of segregation in the first place. People who think that Jim Crow was a voluntary system in which people just decided that they wanted to segregate their businesses are incorrect. There were Jim Crow laws on the books. The law in the state of Alabama is that you needed a 7-foot-high wall in your restaurant. Okay, this idea that the government always has clean hands and that it's individuals who are the problem, and that capitalism, in the absence of government compulsion, is not the solution to discrimination, must have missed the last 50-odd years of history in this country.
Let's have the Reverend, you had something...
I believe in socialism, but I don't believe in capitalism. Oh yeah, you should just send your jobs overseas. What about these people?
No,
they have no money.
Thanks to my business. Imagine if my business didn't. Did you have a job?
Fuck your business.
It's not a job. So when you finish, where are you gonna go? Well, when you finish college.
I don't need to tell you when I'm gonna go work. What does that matter?
Okay, let's say hypothetically someone goes to college.
It'll be hard as fuck for me to find a job because of the way the capitalist economy operates, no matter what I go with.